Now, the next question we need to look at is the status of the territories that are covered by this new Palestinian state. This new Islamic state of Palestine will cover those territories which Israel took control of in the 1967 Six-Day War. We need to understand that this really is the heartland of the mandate territory of Palestine. Indeed, for the Jewish people, this is the heartland of biblical Israel. This is Judea and Samaria, which is so often called the West Bank territories. Of course, I'm putting to one side Gaza for the moment and the Golan Heights, and focusing very much on the West Bank area. This is the mountainous territory of Israel. And it is this heartland, really, a mountain area of Israel, which is to become a Palestinian Islamic sovereign state if Mahmoud Abbas will have his way. Now, the Palestinian claim proceeds on the assumption that the Palestinian people somehow own or have a right to sovereignty of these territories. And this is problematic because in fact, the Jewish people are the only people ever to have had a state with Jerusalem as its capital, covering this area of Israel, the mountainous area, the heartland of Israel. It is, of course, all of that area which was the subject of the kingdoms of Israel for so many hundreds of years before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. So it was Jerusalem, which was a Jewish city. It was Hebron, which was a Jewish city. Bethlehem, a Jewish city. So many of the cities of the West Bank were created, came into existence through the Jewish people when they took control of that area over 3,000 years ago and became sovereign, a kingdom of the Jewish people for so many centuries. Now, with the destruction of the temple in 70 and later the disbursement of the remnant of the Jewish people several years later, the Jewish people went into the diaspora. And for almost 2,000 years, this area was largely irrelevant. Jerusalem was for many, many centuries almost forgotten. And certainly for the last 400 years of the Ottoman Turkish Empire, Jerusalem was hardly on the map. The whole area was simply one little district of an area which was governed by a regime based in Damascus. It was part of a greater Syria, in fact. Now, things changed when the Jewish people started coming home in the late 19th century. Zionism came into being. And the Jewish people, escaping the pogroms and the persecutions of Europe, started to return to their homeland. And of course, they looked specifically to Jerusalem as being the capital. Jerusalem, referred to over 700 times in the Old Testament of our Bible, is the center, the focus, the head of the nationhood of the Jewish people. And of course, Jerusalem is right in the heartland of what is now known as the West Bank, and it is Jerusalem which really is the heart of this conflict. Now, when the First World War came to an end and the Paris Peace Conference took place, the mandate systems were created. And very simply, the mandate for Palestine was designed to enable the Jewish people to have their homeland again. It recognized the pre-existing connection of the Jewish people historically and legally with the land, their right to reconstitute their nationhood in Palestine. And Palestine covered all the area west of the Jordan River, as well as the area east of the Jordan River that is now the nation of Jordan, which was separated off already in 1922. So in effect, what has now become the state of Jordan was originally intended in 1922 to become a territory, a mandate territory, and ultimately a state for the Arab Palestinians. And the West area, including what is now the West Bank, remained under the mandate for Palestine, which was intended to enable the Jewish people to have their homeland. So there is a contradiction, a tension, in fact, a conflict between the claim on the one hand of the Palestinian people to sovereignty or ownership of this area and the pre-existing rights recognised by the League of Nations, the precursor to the United Nations, as early as 1922, that the Jewish people would have this area as their homeland. They weren't to live there exclusively. Others than the Jews were to have civil and religious rights. But in terms of self-determination of nationhood, this was to be for the Jewish people.